All right, let's dive in. Slavic mythology, huh? You've really gone deep with this one, I gotta say.
Yep.
Tons of articles, notes, books.
Yeah, it seems like more than just a casual interest.
Definitely more than just the basics, yeah.
Yeah.
So, ready to unearth some core myths.
Absolutely. We'll crack open the symbolism and see how these old stories still, well, kind of echo today, you know?
Kind of like Game of Thrones, but with maybe a bit more Baba Yaga thrown in.
More Baba Yaga, exactly.
Okay, so let's start with the big players. Like, who are the top deities we gotta know about in Slavic mythology?
Well, Perun's a big one, and actually your sources bring up a really interesting point. He's not just some thunder god, throwing lightning bolts around.
Right, right.
He's connected to oaths and justice. There's even an article here about Perun in, like, ancient Slavic legal stuff. What stood out to you there?
Oh, for sure. The whole oath-taking thing, swearing by Perun's name. It's like, wow, this guy's a pillar of their society. Not just about, like, being scared of a thunderstorm, but, like, respecting a whole cosmic order he represents.
Yeah, totally. And that cosmic order thing, it ties right into his battle with Veles, right? God of the underworld. It's like more than just two gods fighting, it's order versus chaos playing out on this epic scale.
That makes me think of those festivals where they'd, like, drown or burn effigies of Morana, the winter goddess. Was that, like, also about keeping things in order? Warding off chaos?
I think that's a really strong interpretation, yeah. Morana, she's winter, right? The harshness, the threat to survival, everything feels out of whack. So getting rid of her, it's like, okay, bring back balance, bring back spring, bring back hope.
And you see that cyclical thing a lot in Slavic myth, especially with Morana. Death, but then rebirth, Spring always wins in the end.
Exactly. And speaking of creation, there's Varog, the blacksmith god up in the sky. You had some notes about him and fire, forging the cosmos and all that. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I'm wondering, like, was fire just fire to them or something more? It seems almost like this, like, powerful creative force, light and transformation, pretty deep stuff.
Definitely not just lighting your campfire, right?
Right.
It's really interesting to compare that creator role with, say, Dinana, the hunt goddess. Total opposite vibe, but still creative in this wild, untamed way.
It's like they saw creative power in the heavens and the wilderness everywhere.
And everywhere, yeah. And speaking of the wilderness, your research takes us to some, well, darker corners of Slavic mythology. I mean, Baba Yaga's got to be the most famous, right?
Oh, yeah, she's more than just a witch in a chicken-legged hut, that's for sure.
All right.
She's, like, terrifying but also wise, guardian of knowledge, but also, like, don't mess with me kind of vibe.
Yeah, Slavic myth loves that ambiguity, right? Good and bad all mixed up. And you mentioned the dog head, the Solov, in your notes. Pretty creepy, this dog-headed scavenger dude.
Oh, yeah, that one's, well, the afterlife connection is what gets me. He's like a guide to the land of the dead, a psychopomp. What did the Slavic people think happened after you died? This guy might give us a clue.
And it's not all sunshine and rainbows over there, right? I mean, you got creatures like the Leo bringing bad luck everywhere it goes. Even with gods and magic and all that, life was still unpredictable.
Yeah.
They got that.
For sure. So we've got these amazing figures, these myths, but how did it all play out in everyday life?
Well, their rituals are a good place to look. You mentioned the offerings to Perun for a good harvest, right? They really believed these gods could help them or hurt them if they weren't careful.
Right, and burning Morana's effigy, that wasn't just symbolic. They were, like, actively pushing winter away, participating in that whole cycle of death and rebirth.
Exactly. And even the stories like the Baba Yaga ones, those weren't just for fun, right? They were teaching you how to live, how to deal with a world that's both beautiful and dangerous, how to make good choices.
Okay, so taking a step back here, what does all this tell us about the Slavic people? What did they believe?
Well, they clearly respected nature big time. They were fascinated by light and darkness, good and evil, those forces at play. And human life, definitely not separate from all that. We're all part of this big cosmic dance.
And even when Christianity came along, these old beliefs didn't just disappear, right? You can still see them, like in their folklore, art, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Slavic culture still got those echoes, those whispers of the old ways. Shows you how powerful these stories can be, how they connect us to something, well, something ancient and true in a way.
This deep dive has been amazing. So much to think about.
Tons to explore, yeah. And as you keep digging, ask yourself, what can we learn from the Slavic people? About nature, about facing the unknown, about the choices we make. It's more relevant than you might think.
Great stuff. Until next time.
See you then.